So after a week off, the UFC is back in the UFC Apex of all places, but I mean, we're back again with Mackenzie Dern versus Xiaonan in the main event, of course, at 115 pounds. Let's be honest with ourselves, this is not the greatest UFC card of all time, but you do have a matchup on the undercard for now between Oleinik and Latifi. The main card is interesting. You got a co-main event of Randy Brown taking on Francisco Trinaldo, but of course in the main event it'll be 5 rounds if needed between Mackenzie Dern and Xiaonan. After this for the UFC, another week off, and then after that we come back for another Apex card. Alexa Grasso and Viviana Araujo in the main event. We'll get to that when we get to it though in a couple weeks, but of course the main event this weekend, Mackenzie Dern and Xiaonan. And folks, if you haven't yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more UFC here on the channel. And also tomorrow we will be back with our Bellator 286 predictions. The main event for the featherweight championship, you got Patricio Pitbull taking on Adam Borshchev, and in the co-main event, AJ McKee makes his debut at lightweight. He'll be taking on the former UFC fighter in Spike Carlisle, so that's going to be coming at you from Long Beach on Friday, but our predictions will be coming out tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that as well. So we don't got a bout order just yet for this card, and I'm just going to go off of Tapology's way of putting up this card right now, even though I think Tapology just has it on which fight has been added the latest. But we've got Jessica Penne taking on Tabitha Ricci first, and for Jessica Penne, coming off that loss in Long Island to Emily Ducote, it was a fight where we thought Ducote was going to win, and it was just kind of played out the way we thought it was going to. Ducote kicked the hell out of Jessica Penne's legs in that fight, and of course Ducote ended up winning the fight. She got it done by decision. I mean, she just outboxed her, out-kickboxed her. It was a good one for Emily Ducote in her UFC debut, and that was Penne coming off back-to-back wins in the UFC over the likes of Lupi Godinez and Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Now, did she really win the Godinez fight? I didn't think she did, but it was a close enough fight where to the point where she won by split decision. And after that, she beat Karolina Kowalkiewicz by armbar in the first round. And she's taken on the jiu-jitsu practitioner in Tabitha Ricci. So Baby Shark is 2-1 in the UFC. Her first fight in the promotion was a loss to Manon Fiorot. Now, of course, they did her no favors in her first fight in the promotion fighting Fiorot. Fiorot is a fighter who's going to be fighting Kaylin Kuchagian in about 3 weeks, and if she wins, maybe she's getting a title shot just next. But for Ricci, after that, she comes back. She beats Maria Oliveira. She beats her by unanimous decision, outboxes her and out wrestles her when needed, and just is the better jiu-jitsu fighter in that fight. And same can be said in the Poliana Viana fight, but that was ever so apparent, or more apparent in the Viana fight, because it was Ricci again really working the wrestling and really working her jiu-jitsu and not allowing Viana to do anything off her back. Ricci won that fight 2-1. Now she's booked against Jessica Penne, who is a fighter who I think is still ranked right now in the strawweight division. If she's not, she's just on the outside looking in, because the UFC honestly doesn't have too many strawweight fighters right now. And of course, when she fought Ducote, she was ranked. I can check right now if she is ranked. She is 15. So Penne's 15, Ducote is 13 with her one fight in the UFC. Just shows you though how, I wouldn't say weak. Well, I mean, okay, the strawweight division is a little bit weak. Just how thin this division truly is when you have a fighter like Emily Ducote coming in her first fight, being a fighter who, okay, Jessica Penne's won two straight fights, but they don't have too many fighters at 115 at the moment. But when you look at this fight between Penne and Ricci, I mean, on the ground, I give the advantage to Tabitha Ricci, even though Jessica Penne does have solid jiu-jitsu. I mean, you saw where she did submit Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and she's gotten submission wins before in the UFC, but it's not going to be enough, I think, to, propel her to victory in this fight, at least. I just think Ricci's wrestling and her jiu-jitsu is better than Jessica Penne, which is kind of bad, because now you got to think about it. All right, Jessica Penne's going to have to outbox Tabitha Ricci to win this fight, which can happen, but I don't like relying on Jessica Penne's boxing to win her a fight. So that's why I'm not going to pick her. I'm going to take Tabitha Ricci to win this one. I think Ricci is able to bring her down and keep her down. I could see Ricci eventually getting a submission, but I'll go the safe pick here. I think Tabitha Ricci wins this fight, her third straight fight in the UFC, and I think she'll get it done by decision over Jessica Penne. All right, so my guy, Oleinik is back. He just picked up his 60th win in his professional career in his last fight, and a win over Jared Vanderaa. He's 45 years old, and now he's going to be fighting in front of no crowd on a Saturday afternoon against Ilir Latifi. Now, for Ilir Latifi, he's coming off a win in his last fight. He beat Tanner Boser, and it was a fight where it was just Latifi out grinding Boser to victory. Boser had success on the feet, but it was all Latifi on the ground. But really, when Latifi took down Tanner Boser, it's kind of held him there, didn't really do anything with it. But it's all right. That's how Ilir Latifi wins fights, and he needed that win, man. Coming off of 3 straight losses beforehand, given it was to the likes of Corey Anderson, Volkan Oezdemir, and Derek Lewis, but it was a much-needed win for Ilir Latifi in his last fight, and now he's going to fight Oleinik. Oleinik needed to win his last fight as well. He had lost three straight. Again, though, good fighters. Derek Lewis, Chris Dawkins, Sergey Spivak. Lewis and Spivak have now been booked to fight each other in a main event in November, which I think Derek Lewis can win. At least I hope. It's in the Apex. We'll see. I don't know. But anyways, for Oleinik, he comes back. It's a fight that he is losing to Jared Vanderaa early in the first round, but eventually, fight ends up on the ground. You know what's going to happen. Oleinik gets him in a scarf hold and just completely squeezes the living hell out of Jared Vandeera's head, and he wins the fight by submission in the first round. Only the way Oleinik Oleinik can. And now, of course, this guy's been around for forever. He's 60 years old. This is going to be, let's see if I can do math here. This is going to be his 78th professional fight, which is insane. And he wants to keep fighting. All the credit in the world to Alexei Oleinik. But now he's taking on Latifi. And Latifi's a guy who's never been taken down in his UFC career. And I think if we want to talk about the stand-up game and comparing both these guys, boxing abilities in this fight, Latifi's got the better hands out of him and Oleinik. It's not great, but Alexei Oleinik has never had the greatest hands. He really doesn't throw punches all that well. For Latifi, he really just throws a big overhand right, and that's where he will wobble guys and stun them. He does, that's really all he does throw. But Alexei Oleinik, the guy's 45 years old, his chin is not the greatest. He can still eat some punches, but he will get knocked out if you do, blitz him, kind of what Chris Daukaus did to him in the Apex back early in 2021. So I think Latifi is going to throw that big overhand right a lot in this fight. I think he's going to rely on his power. Obviously, that's what he always does on the feet to try to, gain respect out of Alexei Oleinik and try to knock him out. But if he's not able to do that, Alexei Oleinik could try to take down Latifi. The thing is, Oleinik's never been the greatest, pure wrestler. He can get it done. He'll try to tie up with guys in the clinch and bring him down that way. My problem with that is that Latifi's never been taken down in the UFC. That's tough. Latifi's never been taken down. He's got 100% takedown defense so far in the UFC. The thing is, guys don't really try to take down Latifi all that often because you know that Latifi, he wants to go in there. He wants to outgrind guys in the ground. He wants to wrestle guys in the ground as well. So will Oleinik be the first guy to take him down? I think there's a possibility. I think if Oleinik tries to, get him in the clinch, maybe body lock or something brings him down, or a trip, maybe that's how he does get Latifi down there. But I think the more likely thing is that Latifi tries to take down Alexei Oleinik. I think that Latifi might get tired in the first round trying to knock out Alexei Oleinik. I don't know if he's able to do so because he'll keep throwing that same one punch over and over and over again. And then he gets caught in the trap in the second round. He's kind of tired. Oleinik, might be tired as well. Probably lay down in the middle of in between first and second rounds because that's what he does. He'll lay down. He'll, put the ice on his stomach, which is interesting. But he's a 45-year-old man. Okay, he can do whatever he wants. But then Latifi might get tired in that second round. He'll try to take down Alexei Oleinik. He does, but then this is what I thought of when I thought about this Oleinik-Latifi fight, is that, okay, Latifi takes him down, and then Oleinik's got the scarf hold or the Ezekiel from the bottom like he did against Victor Pesta, and he squeezes the hell out of his head while he's on the bottom, and he submits Latifi that way. I seriously think that there's a very real possibility that that happens in this fight, because that's kind of what happened in the Victor Pesta fight, right? Pesta takes down Oleinik. He's kind of tired. Not really, but it's in the first round, but he gets just caught in Ezekiel from the bottom from I believe Pesta had Oleinik mounted, I think, and then Oleinik just got him with an Ezekiel and submitted him and finished the fight and won that way. I think there's a very good chance that happens in this fight. And am I really about to call an Ezekiel choke from bottom victory for Alexei Oleinik in this fight? I am. Yeah, Alexei Oleinik's going to submit not Victor Pesta. Well, he already did that. He's going to submit Latifi, not in the first round, the second round. I think it's going to play out in the second round. I think Alexei Oleinik's going to find a submission. I think he's going to beat Latifi in the second round by submission. I don't think Oleinik's going to get a takedown. I don't think he's going to necessarily win on the feet in the first round, but I think he'll find a way in the second. Oleinik is going to submit Latifi. I think Latifi is going to fall into the trap, and Alexei Oleinik picks up his 61st professional MMA win. He'll get it done by second round submission. All right, so Felipe Lins is back. Obviously, the 2018 PFL champion. We had high hopes for Felipe Lins coming to the UFC. I feel like I talk about this every single time he fights, and he's been booked against a million different guys. There was a point where he's booked against 6 different opponents or 6 opponents on different days, and he just didn't fight any of them. Eventually, though, he fought Marcin Prachnio. He won. Really? Okay. I didn't think he was going to beat Prachnio. He comes in there, does this thing, boxes Prachnio. He doesn't get caught with a big power shot. He takes him down a couple times, and Felipe Lins wins the fight. And so he's now 1-2 in the UFC. He'll be taking on Maxim Grishin, though, in this fight. And for Maxim Grishin, coming off his last fight with a win over Will Knight, he beat him by unanimous decision. Knight was kind of just really, he was one-dimensional in that fight because he was getting beat on the feet. He wasn't really throwing a lot on the feet, and he kept trying to take down Grishin. He couldn't. He did a couple times, but William Knight really just got tired towards the end of that fight, really after the first round, and Grishin was able to pick up a pretty easy decision victory. And before that, for Maxim Grishin, hell, I thought he beat Dustin Jacoby. I think he did. I think Jacoby's really talented and a really good fighter, but I thought Jacoby didn't do enough to beat Maxim Grishin in their fight a couple years ago, actually like a year ago to this point now. But it's fine. Grishin before that beat Antigulov by KO in the second round. Then he came into the UFC short notice, lost to Marcin Tybura, up a weight class, lost by unanimous decision. That was the old classic Marcin Tybura, I'm gonna clinch you, I'm gonna put you up against the fence, and I'm just gonna outgrind you to victory type of fight for Marcin Tybura. It's fine. Grishin's 2-2 in the UFC now. I think he should be able to beat Felipe Lins. You look at Lins' first 2 fights in the UFC. It's a loss to Andrei Arlovski, and it's a loss to Tanner Boser, who got knocked out in the first round back in 2020. And of course, he came back and beat Prachnio. That's cool. Marcin Prachnio, for what it's worth, I I know he picked up a win over Ike Villanueva and Khalil Roundtree, but the guy's still very low level, let's be honest with ourselves. Maxime Grishin should be able to beat Felipe Lins in this fight. I mean, I think Grishin's hands are better. I think Felipe Lins does have power, but we haven't seen it yet in the UFC. He was able to go in there in the PFL and knock out guys left and right, but he's beating Josh Copeland, he's beating the Big Show, Jared Roshaw, he's beating Alex Nicholson by knockout. He's not beating the elite level guys in the UFC or just really any UFC guys by knockout just yet. He hasn't shown the power that he had in the PFL just because, let's be honest, the guys he fought in the PFL back then weren't very good, and the guys that are in the PFL now, I think, would have beat Felipe Lins, especially at 265 pounds. I mean, you book Felipe Lins against guys like Bruno Capoloza. I know he didn't, I know Capoloza's not going to get a chance to fight for the championship, but like Ante Dalia, a guy like Hanan Fahea, a guy like, I don't know about, I'd say maybe Scheffel could beat him. I know Matthias Scheffel's in the heavyweight title fight for PFL against Ante Dalia. That's coming up in a couple months. And by the way, I'm so excited for the PFL next year. Thiago Santos, Marlon Moraes, Shane Burgos. That's going to be so much fun, dude. I'm really excited for the PFL next year. But anyways, I just don't think Lin's fought the best guys in the PFL, and as coming to the UFC, I think Maxime Grishin's going to outbox him here. I don't think Lin's going to be able to take him down if he does take down Grishin. I don't think he's going to be able to hold him down. Grishin's just the better boxer in this fight. He's got better striking. I think it'll be kind of a technical fight, which means I don't think there's going to be a knockout, but I think Grishin's able to win. I think he'll outbox Felipe Lins for 15 minutes. I'm going to give the victory here to Maxime Grishin. All right, so next up, we've got Joaquim Silva taking on Jesse Ronson. Ronson technically still winless in the UFC. Obviously, that win against Nicholas Dalby in the summer of 2020, but that fight obviously got overturned due to Ronson testing positive. I believe it was to a steroid, if I'm not mistaken. You can pull up the actual steroid. It was metadonine. Okay, I don't know. I didn't see that in Breaking Bad, so I don't know what that is. But anyways, Ronson won the fight. It got overturned. He won by rear naked choke, but now, he comes back off of suspension. He loses to Rafa Garcia. He gets submitted in the second round. And Ronson's first stint in the UFC, well, he went 0-3, took on Michel Pereira. He lost to Francisco Trinaldo, who was fighting on the same exact card. They fought on Fight Night Machida versus Musasi back in February 2014. Then he lost a split decision after that to Kevin Lee, given all of his 3 losses in his first UFC stint were by split decision. Now, he's going to be taking on Joaquim Silva, and for Joaquim Silva, he's back, back-to-back losses for Silva. Nasrat Haqparast back in 2019, and then after that he came back, lost to Ricky Glenn, where he got knocked down the first round in 37 seconds. Now, for Silva, comes in the UFC, really good jiu-jitsu guy, coming up for, big wins by submission in regional promotions. Comes in the UFC on the Ultimate Fighter. He loses in the semifinals, then comes into the UFC, though, and actually UFC, wins 3 fights, loses to Vince Pichel, beats Jared Gordon, loses to Nasrat Haqparast, loses to Ricky Glenn. Now here we are. I mean, Joaquim Silva's got a lot of power. He's going to, wing big power shots out there. His jiu-jitsu is pretty solid as well. I mean, okay, he's the favorite in this fight for good reason over Jesse Ronson, just because Ronson hasn't been incredible so far, after the Dalby fight, given it was only 1 fight, but he didn't look all that great in that Rafa Garcia fight. Let's be honest, he looked kind of old in that fight. He's 36. Silva is 33. I mean, they're both on losing streaks technically. I think Joaquim Silva is going to win. I think he's going to get back in the win column with this fight. I think his striking is better than Jesse Ronson. His jiu-jitsu is better than Ronson's as well. And I think Joaquim Silva, wherever this fight does go, I think he is the better fighter. I would be concerned maybe a little bit by Joaquim Silva's chin. It's not the greatest at this point. Back-to-back knockout losses aren't incredible, but Jesse Ronson, he's not that one hitter, big power shot, I'm gonna put you out type of guy. I mean, Ronson's gonna take a little bit of time to knock you out, especially just against some of these more high level guys who aren't in regional promotions in Canada or whatnot. So I don't think Ronson's able just to put him out with one shot. I think Ronson, if he's gonna win, he's gonna, it's gonna take time and he's gonna have to develop his striking. That's why I'm gonna take Joaquim Silva. I think this is gonna be one of these fights where it's gonna, I think it's gonna be a 1-round fight. I think Silva's gonna knock him out in the first round. We'll see what happens, but I think Joaquim Silva is going to just kind of go for it here and just hope for the best. I think that's what he's going to do, and I think he's going to beat Jesse Ronson. I think he's going to put him out in the first round, knock him out in the first round. We'll see. I mean, obviously, his last fight did not go well against Ricky Glenn. He got knocked down twice, basically in 30 seconds, and the Haqparast fight wasn't incredible either, but I think Silva's going to really go for it. I think he's going to bring that real pressure. He's going to bring the fight Jesse Ronson. I think he's going to come in there. He's going to pick up a knockout victory. So I'm going to have Joaquim Silva to get back in the win column with a first-round knockout win over Jesse Ronson. All right, so Julia Stoliarenko is back. Now, she started her UFC career 0-4. We kind of clowned her a little bit, let's be honest. And I was like, okay, there's no chance, right? No chance Jessica Rose Clark loses to Julia Stoliarenko. And she did. Oh my goodness. Oh, Jessica Rose Clark loses the fight by submission in the first round. And DC said it on the commentary broadcast before the fight when Julia Stoliarenko was walking the octagon. DC goes, I'm paraphrasing here, but DC goes, well, she's 0-4 in the UFC, but she's got, 10 wins or 9 wins by armbar submission. So if she's going to win the fight, it's going to be by armbar. What happens? She wins by armbar. Stoliarenko gets her down, armbar from side control, fight over. She wins the fight in about a minute, less than a minute. It's just like that. And Rose Clark breaks her arm in the process too. Okay, so Julia Stoliarenko, I think, in this fight with Chelsea Chandler, who I don't think is the greatest. Chelsea Chandler is going to be making her UFC debut. She's coming in from Invicta. All right, Julia Stoliarenko has one way to win this fight. It is by armbar. But the thing is, Julia Stoliarenko has a very good chance to win this fight, and it's by armbar. That is what this fight comes down to. Because if Stoliarenko is able to get a takedown, she is so good at getting that armbar. It is Ronda Rousey-esque. And yes, I just compared Julia Stoliarenko to Ronda Rousey. But that's to the point, that's the level and how good she is with the armbar. All right? If MMA, or if MMA was just, armbars only and just pure grappling, Julia Stoliarenko might be the champion. All right? Because she's so good at just getting armbars. But everywhere else, okay, she's not the greatest. Right? I mean, if you were able to keep Stoliarenko on the feet, she's not great. She's not good on the feet. Alexis Davis was able to show that. Julia Avila was able to show that. And Avila eventually took her down and submitted her. Yana Kunitskaya was able to expose that. Even Leah Letson was able to show that, okay, Stoliarenko's not good stand-up wise. All Chelsea Chandler's got to do is keep this fight on the feet. That's all she has to do. And that's how she won rounds in her last fight in Invicta. The fight that earned her a contract in the UFC was a very good fight against Courtney King. Now, originally, Chandler was supposed to fight Leah Letson. Letson had to pull out. But Chandler's win over Courtney King showed, all right, it's a brawl on the feet. Chandler's able to win. Now, in the third round, King is able to take her down and kind of hold her down for a little bit, which is concerning to a certain extent, considering, considering Julia Stoliarenko, all she needs is one takedown eventually to get you an armbar and win the fight. But I think Chandler's able to keep the fight on the feet against Stoliarenko, and I think Chandler is able to outbox Julia Stoliarenko, obviously, for 3 rounds, right? Again, as long as she doesn't get taken down and caught in an armbar, Chelsea Chandler wins this fight 9 times out of 10. No, 19 times out of 20, right? That's the confidence I have in Chelsea Chandler, even though I don't think Chelsea Chandler is all that great. I just think her boxing and her striking is going to be way enough to beat Julia Stoliarenko, just because Stoliarenko, again, is so, and I mean so one-dimensional. She is so one-dimensional to the point where she's one-dimensional on the ground because she just looks for arm bars, all right? So I think Chandler's able to win. I think she keeps it on the feet. I think she out-brawls and out-boxes Julia Stoliarenko. So I've got Chelsea Chandler to win this fight. She gets it done by unanimous decision. So a real competitive one, and maybe one of the better fights in this card. No, probably... it is one of the better fights in this card. Brendan Allen taking on Krzysztof Jotko. Now, for Brendan Allen, I feel like this guy's way older than 26, but he's only 26 years old. He has been around for it forever, it feels like. I mean, Brendan Allen, he's been so active. He comes into the UFC after beating Aaron Jeffrey in the Contender Series in 2019. He beats Kevin Holland after that, beats Tom Breese, beats Kyle Dawkins. Has, a bad fight, just not a great fight against Sean Strickland where he gets knocked down in the second round, comes back, beats Carl Roberson, beats Punahele Soriano, loses to Chris Curtis, but then bounces back, beats Sam Alvey, beats Jacob Malkoun, and now he's back taking on Krzysztof Jotko. For Brendan Allen, I mean, his striking has kept on evolving. His striking game has continued to get better over time. That's how he's able to beat Jacob Malkoun, even though Malkoun found some success with the wrestling, but Allen was able to win on the feet. In the Sam Alvey fight, Allen knocks him down, eventually finishes him with a rear naked choke submission. The Puna Soriano fight, it's the striking out of Allen that wins him the fight. The Roberson fight, he beats him with an ankle lock. It's varying ways of winning fights for Brendan Allen, and he's so well balanced. And again, his striking has caught up to the point where it's getting to the same level as his grappling, which makes him a very dangerous fighter. Now he's gonna be taking on Krzysztof Jotko. Jotko, 24-5 professional record, coming off back-to-back wins though. Split decision victory over Misha Serkinov, and unanimous decision victory over Gerald Mearshart. And Jotko proved a point in the Mearshart fight. I mean, he really made Mearshart one-dimensional, or just not even one-dimensional. Mearshart was lost after Jotko was able to just beat him in the wrestling, basically. I mean, the first round, no takedowns are attempted, so Jotko just wins that first round, outstriking Mearshart. The second round, though, Jotko is the one taking down Mearshart, and he's the one stuffing takedowns out of Mearshart as well. And in the third round, is Jotko taking down Mearshart more. It made it a very tough fight for Mearshart, because Mearshart wasn't able to do anything, because, of course, if you take away the wrestling and the grappling at Jared Mearshart, he's just kind of a sitting duck, right? Jotko's fight against Misha Serkinov, though, is the one that gives me a lot of hope for Brendan Allen in this fight. I mean, Serkinov is able to go to the well multiple times with the takedowns. I mean, I know he goes 5 for 17, but he is able to find a way to get Jotko down, and Brendan Allen is just able to find a little bit of success, or a little bit of the success in the wrestling to the point where Serkinov found it. He's able to get down Jotko and hold him down on the ground. Right, so that's where I like Brendan Allen a lot in this fight. And Allen, I think his striking now at this point of his career is able to the point where it's kind of caught up to Jotko. I mean, I wouldn't say Brendan Allen's a better striker between him and Krzysztof Jotko, but I think it's to the point where he can remain competitive with him and maybe steal rounds against Krzysztof Jotko on the feet. So I think if Allen is able to do that, he can steal maybe just one round the feet against Krzysztof Jotko and then mix it up with the wrestling and the takedowns, it's going to change this fight entirely. because Brendan Allen, again, he's gotten to this point of his career where he's getting so much better on the feet. He can hang with guys now. And Krzysztof Jotko, not to say he couldn't before, but like, he can be very competitive with guys like Krzysztof Jotko on the feet. If he's able to do that, he can mix it up with the wrestling, and he can take him down and hold him down. Brendan Allen can win this fight 100%. That's why I'm going to take Brendan Allen here at plus money, plus 115 for Brendan Allen. Coming back at you for minus 135 for Krzysztof Jotko. I'm going to take the underdog in this fight, and Brendan Allen, I think he's able to pick up his 8th win in the UFC, go to 20-5 in his professional career. Going to be Brendan all-in Allen to beat Krzysztof Jotko. He's going to get it done by unanimous decision. So we've got old man Guido Cannetti's back, and he's going to be taking on Randy Costa. Now, Costa has lost back-to-back fights. He lost to Adrian Yanez, and a fight that was just a war back in 2021. It's a really hyped up fight. Comes in though after that, he loses to Tony Kelly in a fight where he gets finished in the 2nd round, and people hate Tony Kelly, but Kelly's a decent fighter who I don't really think deserved to get cut. I know he said some stuff going to the Yanez fight and going to the Costa fight that didn't make him well liked by the fans, but I think the guy is a good fighter. I think he is, and I don't think he deserved to be cut. Now, I'm not backing into the things he says outside of the octagon, but whatever. If you're able to beat a guy like Randy Costa, you're pretty good. Right, because Costa's 2-3 in the UFC, but he's a really fun fighter to watch. He always goes out there and gives it his all, and he's going to go to war on the feet, right? But in the Tony Kelly fight, just really couldn't get started. Kelly just beat him with a punch basically everywhere in that fight, and by the time the 2nd round rolled in, Tony Kelly was the way fresher fighter. Costa couldn't do anything really, and Kelly eventually wins the fight by TKO in that round. But in the fights that Costa, the Yanez fight, it's a back and forth first round. Even the 2nd round's back and forth until Yanez is able to put him away. The Jerry Newson fight, Costa knocks him out in the 1st round. He knocks out Boston Salmon in the 1st round. He loses to Brandon Davis in his 1st fight back in 2019. But that was a while ago now to this point. Costa's now taking on Guido Cannetti. And it feels like a fight that the UFC is giving Randy Costa to get back in the winning streak and kind of, I wouldn't say building his name off of Guido Cannetti, because Cannetti doesn't really have too much of a name, but it's a fight that you can get Costa back in the win column, and you can win, and beat a guy who's 42 years old. Guido Cannetti is a 42-year-old bantamweight. It is interesting. It is interesting. So he is a 42-year-old, 135-pounder, and now he's going to be fighting Randy Costa. Now, Cannetti is coming off a victory. He's on a 3-fight losing streak to the likes of Marlon Vera, Dinar Bakary, and Mana Martinez. But even the Mana Martinez fight was competitive. It was more competitive than I thought it was going to be, honestly. I still thought Martinez won, but Cannetti had his moments definitely in that fight. You give the 1st round to Cannetti, you give the 2nd to Mana Martinez, the 2nd round, of course, the flip round. But Cannetti goes into his last fight, and it's just full just going after Chris Moutinho. Now, is Moutinho the greatest fighter? No, he's really not. He's now cut from the UFC. We'll see where he's going next. I think he's going back to CES. But Cannetti ran it right through Chris Moutinho in that fight. Really showed that, all right, Moutinho should not be here. And really, for Cannetti, I mean, he did that in 12 minutes quicker than what Sean O'Malley did. So it was a good one for Cannetti, but really, how good is Chris Moutinho? My point exactly. Randy Costa is going to be able to beat Guido Cannetti in this fight. I mean, I think Costa's striking is just better. I mean, yes, Cannetti's got power, sure he does, but Costa's the way more technical striker. He's going to throw straight shots that are just going to expose Guido Cannetti all day long here. He is going to damage Guido Cannetti in this fight, and I don't think this fight is going to last all that long, right? I mean, yes, Costa's on a 2-fight losing streak. He's lost 2 of his last 5, but he's going to get back in the winning column in this fight. He is 14 years younger than Guido Cannetti, and the guy's 28, right? Costa's entering his prime. Guido Cannetti has not been in his prime in a little bit. Randy Costa's going to go in there. He's going to knock out Guido Cannetti. He's going to do it in the 1st round. That's how confident I feel in this fight. I mean, Costa might catch him with the head kick. He's going to catch him with the straight 1s and 2s. It's going to be a problem for Guido Cannetti in this fight just because Costa, again, throws with so much power. He's going to be way quicker than Cannetti. Cannetti's going to be so much slower, too. Like, he's going to throw a right, but as long as he doesn't land on his big power shots, because he does have power, as long as he doesn't land, he should be fine. It's not like, Cannetti's going to come out there, slip a right from Costa and just put him out with one punch really quick. It's not going to happen like that. That's not the way Cannetti fights. Costa should be able to go in there, should be able to damage him. I think Randy Costa is going to win by late 1st round knockout. All right, so full on violence here. I mean, kicking off the main card, hopefully, we've got Mike Davis, who is finally back after his war in his last fight with Mason Jones, and he's going to be taking on Slava Borshchev here. And for Slava Borshchev, his last fight did not go his way, and it was not the fight that he wanted against Mark DeCasey. And that fight was Mark DeCasey going there, out wrestling him and holding him there back in Columbus, Ohio on the Blades Dawkins card. Now, I was told, in my comment section, just saying, people told me that, oh, Mark DeCasey just needed that fight. He just did that in that fight. Not because he's not because he's a wrestler now. It's just because he needed a win. He needed to beat Slava Borshchev that way. And I was like, no, that's how Mark DeCasey fights now. And that's what he did against Damir Hadzovic. Mark DeCasey's a wrestler now. That's what he is. And it's like, oh, you just did that because you needed to win a fight. No, Mark DeCasey always needs to win a fight. Like, go get your money, dude. Go out there and go win fights. Don't get in wars in the feet and like lose Matrix style to Rafael Fiziev because he's, bending backwards to avoid your head kicks. No, just go in there and wrestle guys. That's what he did against Slava Borshchev. That's what he did against Damir Hazovic. And I hate to say it, that's what he's likely going to do against Michael Johnson. It's gonna suck because I like Michael Johnson, but like, that's probably what's gonna happen. I mean, that's the way DeCasey fights down. For Slava Borshchev, though, in this fight against Mike Davis, there is going to be no worry of that takedown, I don't think, because Mike Davis doesn't really do that. Mike Davis is a guy who wants to go in there and get in wars in the feet. That's what he did in his last 2 fights. The Thomas Gifford fight was a war. The Mason Jones fight was one of the best fights of all of 2021. I mean, it was an incredible fight, and it's a shame we haven't seen Mike Davis since January of 2021. He couldn't find a fight. He finally got that fight in Slava Borshchev. And this is going to be a war on the feet because you know how good Slava Borshchev is standing. Like, when there is no threat of the ground game, Slava Borshchev is as good as it gets in the feet. The Team Alpha Male product out of Sacramento, California is going to give you a fun fight in the feet. He's going to throw a lot of kicks. He's going to throw his ones and twos. This is going to be a tremendous fight because Mike Davis, again, always brings it in every fight he's in. I mean, look at the opponents Mike Davis has had under the UFC banner. I mean, the first fight, Contender Series, lost to Sodiq Yusuff, who we're going to talk about in a couple minutes. Gilbert Burns, tremendous fighter. Thomas Gifford, okay, different level. Mason Jones, one of the more hyped up prospects. I know Jones now, of course, lost to Ludovic Klein, but still, I think Mason Jones is a good fighter. I think, give that guy time. He's going to be really good. Mike Davis went in there and went back and forth, ate Mason Jones' best strikes and beat him. All right. Mike Davis is going to do the same thing as Slava Borshchev. I think Borshchev is going to have his moments, but I think it's going to win fight of the night. I think it's going to be, tremendous. It's going to tear the house down with those 90 people who are in the building. I think Mike Davis is going to win. I think Davis is the better striker. As long as he doesn't get caught with some kick that Borshchev will throw, like that nasty liver shot that he caught Dakota Bush with, I think Mike Davis should be able to win. Again, it's going to be back and forth. I think Slava Borshchev is going to have his moments, but I got Mike Davis to win this one. I know it's been a long time off for Davis, and it's been a long time coming this fight for him, but I'm going to take Mike Davis to beat Slava Borshchev. He's going to do it by unanimous decision. I don't think he's going to be able to finish him, but I think it's an absolute crazy firefight in the feet that Mike Davis gets the better of. Got Mike Davis to win this one by unanimous decision. Really tough UFC debut for shameless Don Shainis. In his first fight in the UFC, he gets Super Sodiq Yusuff. Number 11, I do believe, right now in the featherweight rankings. I can check. Number 12. This is a tough fight. I mean, my goodness. They did this man no favors because Sodiq Yusuff was supposed to fight Giga Chikadze last month. Chikadze withdraws. They find him Don Shainis instead. Wow. And, respect to Don Shainis. All the respect in the world to this man for taking this fight. But, my goodness, is it a horrible matchup for him? It is bad. Okay, Shainis, it's not like he's fought the best guys outside the UFC too. He hasn't fought the best regional fighters. He fought Cody Pfister, who used to be in the UFC a long time ago. He beat him by knockout in FAC. He won the championship over there, which is cool. He goes to Cage Titans after that. He wins their championships. He's got the FAC and the Cage Titans featherweight championships at the same time. I mean, okay, that's cool and all. Before that for Shainis, he beats Jay Ellis. Yeah, that Jay Ellis, the guy who's now 16-106. Look him up. He's an actual fighter. He beats Jay Ellis by 50-second knockout, which is cool. He beats Chris Lencioni on Dana White looking for a fight in the FAC card. Beats him by unanimous decision. The fight that I thought Lencioni was going to win, but it was a good win for Shainis. I mean, before they lost to Nathan Williams and Cage Titans as well. But for Don Shainis in this fight, he is going to have to try to out-wrestle Sodiq Yusuff because that is what he is very good at. He is a good wrestler who can go in there and try to take guys down and win the fight by ground and pound. That's what he did against his opponent for the Cage Titans championship in his last fight, right? Problem is, Sodiq Yusuff doesn't get taken down that much. I mean, he's a tough guy to take down. Caceres did it once, but he had him down for 20 seconds. So even if you take down Yusuff, you can't hold him down there. Andre Fili took him down 3 times, had him down for until 90 seconds. I mean, right? I think if Shainis is able to take down Yusuff's going to pop right back up to his feet. And on the feet, Yusuff's a better striker. He's got more power. He's got better hands. It's a very tough fight, and it's a bad fight for Don Shainis. That's all I'm going to say. He's 2 years older than Yusuff, too, coming to the UFC, somewhat short notice, debut. He's a double champ outside the UFC, but come on now. Sodiq Yusuff's going to go in there. He's probably going to knock him out, right? I think on the feet, I think it'll be a clear mismatch, and I think Sodiq Yusuff's going to find that big power shot. I think he's going to knock him out in the first round. Given Yusuff doesn't have too many first-round knockout finishes in the UFC, he's only got 2. Those are his only finished wins. It's a win over Suman Mokhtarian back in 2018. It's a win over Gabriel Benitez back in 2019, but I think he's going to find that success. Again, it is a top 10 featherweight taking on a guy who is making his UFC debut. This fight is going to go exactly how you think it should go. Super Sodiq Yusuff comes in there. He knocks him out immediately. Sodiq Yusuff picks up the victory by first round knockout. Again, this guy was scheduled for a co-main event against Giga Chikadze. He goes from Giga Chikadze to, no offense, Don Shainis. Sodiq Yusuff wins the fight. He gets it done by first round KO. Next up, we've got Honey Barcelos taking on Trevin Jones. For Barcelos, back-to-back losses to the likes of Victor Henry and Timur Valiev. But, I mean, the Henry fight, it was a back-and-forth fight on the feet. I mean, really fun fight back in Anaheim, UFC 270. Victor Henry does win every single round in that fight, but it is a back-and-forth war on the feet. And it's a very entertaining one. It's a good fight, and it still showed, okay, Barcelos might not be better than Victor Henry, but he's still a very talented fighter who's got a very good stand-up game. And really, for Trevin Jones, it's, you know, Jones isn't going to be the guy to try to take him down. So you're going to see a back and forth. I mean, I wouldn't say back and forth fight on the feet. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. But you're going to see a stand-up fight between these two guys. Now, I thought Barcelos should have got the win over Timur Valiev. Whatever, they gave the decision to Valiev. Valiev's now a free agent. I don't know where he's going. I'm assuming he'll go back to the PFL. We'll see. But Barcelos, before those two losses, was undefeated in the UFC, picking up wins over Kurt Hannibal, Chris Gutierrez. He beat Said Nurmagomedov and beat Khalid Taha as well. I mean, a lot of big wins for Barcelos, the most notable one being the Said Nurmagomedov win back in 2019 in Busan, South Korea. The guy's very talented on the feet. He's got a really good stand-up game, and he's going to come out there and he's going to strike with you. And now, his grappling is solid as well, and if he has to go down to it, he can. But he's taking on a guy here in Trevin at 5-star Jones. And now, Trevin Jones comes in with a huge victory over Timur Valiev. He's losing the fight until he's not. Valiev tires, you know, kind of the midway point of that second round. Jones eventually turns it on, knocks him out at the end of the second round on short notice UFC debut. Huge victory for him, and then it gets overturned. Yeah, Trevin Jones ends up not getting the victory because it was marijuana, which, again, now it would be a victory for Trevin Jones, but back then in 2020, it was marijuana still banned substance, so technically it's a no contest, but still, we can count it as a win for Trevin Jones. After that, he beats Mario Bautista, knocks him out in the second round. You're thinking, oh my goodness, all right, Jones back-to-back knockout wins. He's here for real. And then he runs into Saidjakub Kakhrakhmanov, and Kakhrakhmanov beats him by guillotine in the third round. A fight that Karamov was winning, but kind of not. Jones having a lot of success on the ground. It was interesting because Kakhrakhmanov was winning on the feet, but on the ground, Trevin Jones was controlling him. And then Jones in his next fight runs into Javid Basharat, and Basharat beats him by unanimous decision. Pure striking fight. Basharat wins every single round in that fight, and now here we are with him and Barcelos. Obviously, Jones and Barcelos. You're going to see a stand-up fight, I think. I mean, I think on the ground, okay, wrestling-wise, Barcelos got the advantage. Jiu-jitsu-wise, Barcelos got the advantage. And if he really has to go down there, he will. I think that's where he can have success against Jones. But I don't know if he's going to need it. I think Barcelos is a better striker, obviously, him and Jones. Jones might have a little bit more power, but Barcelos, really technical on the feet, really good striking. I think he's just too quick for Trevin Jones, really. Again, Jones, a guy who's 13-8, taking on Barcelos, who is 16-3, who's, you know, before his last two fights, he was 16-1. Now, I know the guy's 35 years old. I know he's getting up there in age, but still, Barcelos is still a very talented fighter who can still be in there with some of the better guys really at his weight class. I think Barcelos is still the better striker. I think he should be able to go in there and beat Trevin Jones. I would concern a little bit if Barcelos is getting, you know, if Barcelos was a guy who's known to gaslight into fights, I'd get concerned. But the thing is, that's not Honey Barcelos. He doesn't gaslight into fights. I mean, you saw the fight against Henry. The best round against Victor Henry, the best round he had against Victor Henry, even though he lost it, was that third round. So I think Barcelos is fine in the spot against Trevin Jones. I think he'll win it. I think he'll win it pretty convincingly. I got Honey Barcelos to win every single round against Trevin Jones. I got him to win 30-27. Honey Barcelos gets back in the win column with a victory over Trevin 5-star Jones. So apparently this is a main card fight, and I'll be honest with you, I don't know why. It's John Castaneda taking on Daniel Santos. And for Daniel Santos, he was kind of an interesting signing too, because I mean he won a fight back in 2019 in Brave, and he pulled out a couple fights in Brave, and eventually gets signed to the UFC in late 2021. Never fights until March of 2022 or April of 2022, and he gets absolutely dominated by Julio Arce. I mean, it's not even a competition. Julio Arce completely dominates him. Arce beats him to the punch every single time. He is the way better striker, and Santos could just not get going in that fight. It was bad. It was bad. He just got outstruck. The fight really didn't hit the mat all that much, and it was just, again, it was all Julio Arce in that fight. And for Santos, right, so he's 9-2 now. He lost fight in ACA. He won back-to-back, though, in Future and then Brave, but then took 3 years off, fights Arce, loses, and he just didn't look all that great in the Arce fight. It looked slow. Arce beat him to the punch every single time. And now he's taking on John Castaneda, who, I'll be honest with you, John Castaneda was an interesting signing for the UFC because he come in, losing 2 out of his last 3, but he beats Marcelo Rojo by third-round submission, comes in, after a year off, comes in, loses to Nathaniel Wood, beats Eddie Weiland in the first round, and then beats Miles Johnson's last fight. The Miles Johnson fight showed, okay, this guy's pretty good. because I thought John's going to go in there and beat him. I mean, John's a pretty sizable favorite going into that fight with him and Castaneda. Castaneda outstrikes him the first couple rounds. In the third round, gets him down after knocking him down and finishes him and submits him with an arm triangle choke. It was a tremendous victory for Castaneda. He looked really good in that fight. And that fight gives me all the confidence in the world to pick him against Daniel Santos. Because what did Daniel Santos show in the Julio Arce fight to make me think that he can beat John Castaneda? Absolutely nothing. Castaneda is the way better striker. He's faster. He's going to bring the pressure to Daniel Santos. And if this fight goes in the ground, I like John Castaneda down there as well. I'm not entirely sure why this is a main card fight. I mean, the UFC has marked a couple fights as main card fights already, and surprisingly, this is one of them. And honestly, this fight should not be all that high because I am not that impressed at all with Daniel Santos. But if they really are putting this through as a main card fight, it will be a really nice showcase for John Castaneda because I think he's going to be able to showcase all of his skills in this fight with Daniel Santos. I think if he has to, again, he can show off the ground game, he can show off the striking, but I think it will be John Castaneda pushing a pace on Daniel Santos, and I think it will look very similar to the Julio Arce fight. Maybe not to the same certain extent, maybe Santos will have a little bit more moments, but I think it will be Castaneda, again, just beating up on Daniel Santos, trying to start a brawl, but really not getting much thrown back at him. I think it just will be John Castaneda kind of beating up Daniel Santos for 3 rounds, and that's why I like John Castaneda to pick up his 3rd win in the UFC is the reason he's a 2-1 favorite in this fight. I got Castaneda to beat Santos. I think he gets the job done by decision. Again, just all striking out of Castaneda, propelling him to victory. So now we've got Randy Brown taking on Francisco Trinaldo. Yes, the 44-year-old Francisco Trinaldo is back. We had a 42-year-old Guido Cannetti fight in this card, and we had Melvin Manoff and Yoel Romero just fight in Ireland a couple days ago. Those guys are, 44 and 45 respectively as well. Okay, the old guys are back. Francisco Trinaldo at 44 years old. Master Nduba is taking on the rude boy, Randy Brown. And who would have thought Francisco Trinaldo at 44 years old would be going into a co-main event spot on a fight night card, winning, get this, 5 out of his last 6 fights. That's crazy. And honestly, it should be 6 out of his last 7. No, it should be 7 out of his last 8 because I thought he'd be Alexander Hernandez. And if you tie the Hernandez win with the Evan Dunham win back in 2018, he should have won 7 out of his last 8, which is crazy. Now, he did himself no favors in the Hernandez fight because that fight was boring as hell. I still thought he, though, just a little bit more than Alexander Hernandez did. And I thought that kind of home cooking in that fight, but it's fine. Trinaldo, man, keeps on winning. Like, my goodness, he dominated Danny Roberts. It wasn't a fight. It was all Trinaldo on that one. I mean, he showed the striking in rounds 1 and 3. In the second round, he just dominated Danny Roberts by taking him down and holding him down. He beats Dwight Grant before that by split decision. He has that loss to Muslim Salikov, which is going to happen to you. He knocks out Jai Herbert in the 3rd round, the classic Dan Hardy, stop the fight. He beats John McDessie before that. He has that fight where he should have lost to Bobby Green, but they gave him the decision. It's okay. I guess it makes up for the Alexander Hernandez fight. The guy is still really good. He's 44 years old, but unfortunately now he runs into Randy Brown. Like, okay, Randy Brown is own right, though. He's won 5 out of his last 6, too. This guy's good, right? I mean, 3 straight wins over the likes of Alex Cabo Oliveira, Jared Gooden, and Chaos Williams. The last fight against Williams, really impressive because Chaos Williams got a lot of power, really good striker, and Randy Brown dealt with the wrestling that Chaos Williams presented him in that fight, and he still, came in there and won the fight. It was a good one out of Brown. He wins the 2nd and the 3rd. He regroups after losing the 1st round, and Randy Brown gets the victory by split decision. I mean, the flip round's the 2nd, or sorry, not the 2nd. The flip round's the 3rd because Williams had the knockdown, but still, I thought Randy Brown won the fight, and I was the guy who picked Chaos Williams going into that fight. Right before that for Brown, he beats Jared Gooden. It's a back and forth fight, but Brown really puts the pressure on him on the feet and beats him. He beats Cowboy Oliveira before that by submitting him with that standing rear naked choke finish at UFC 261 in Jacksonville. He loses to Vicente Luque, but that's going to happen to you. Luque's so good. Beats Worley Alvarez by triangle choke before that, and then beats Brian Barrena before that by KO in the 3rd round. Okay. It's fun to what Master Nduba has been doing. Francisco Trinaldo has been picking up wins, and it's been impressive, and it's really great to see a 44-year-old pick up a lot of victories. But man, I think this is where that winning streak is going to come to an end. I think Randy Brown's better. I think you will see a stand-up fight between Brown and Trinaldo. I think Brown is just purely the better striker. I don't think you'll get a finish, even though, sure, you should be able to finish a 44-year-old, but I mean, I think Trinaldo's chin has held up pretty well. Surprisingly, for being 44 years old, it has held up to considering his age. And I don't think Brown's going to be able to find the finish knockout in this fight. But I do think, though, he is the better striker. I do think he is quicker on the feet. And I think he will be able to beat Trinaldo everywhere in this fight. Again, all the respect in the world of Master Nduba. He's 44 years old. He's still doing the damn thing. But I just think Randy Brown is better. So I'm going to take the rude boy Randy Brown to win this fight. Again, there's a reason he's a 3-1 favorite in this fight. He wouldn't be a 3-1 favorite for no reason. Brown is going to win this one. He is going to outbox Trinaldo. He's going to out-kickbox Francisco Trinaldo. And Randy Brown's going to pick up the victory here in this co-main event. He's got more power. He's quicker. Brown wins it by unanimous decision. Okay, main event time. We have got Mackenzie Dern taking on Xiaonan in the main event, and for Yan, back-to-back losses in her last 2 fights. 2 fights ago, it's against the current champion now in Carla Esparza, and that was one-way traffic. I thought Esparza was going to win. I didn't think she was going to win like that, though. I mean, she comes in there, she takes down Xiaonan, she holds her down there, then she gets her in the crucifix after just dominating her in the first round with the grappling. In the second round, wrestle her, take her down, boom, crucifix, big punches, ends the fight. Carla Esparza gets a finish going into her title fight with Rose Namajunas, which of course she ended up beating Namajunas, and I don't really fancy her chances too much against Zhang Weili in her next fight, but it's alright. Esparza is the current champ, and she went in there and she beat Xiaonan. Now, Yao's next fight is against Marina Rodriguez, and Rodriguez beats her. I mean, it was a split decision, which, okay, sure. I thought Marina won rounds 2 and 3. You can see it how you want, whatever. I thought Marina did enough, though. Rodriguez definitely turned it up, though, in the third round. I mean, the third round was the only real clear round. The first and second can both be up to debate, but the third round was just a dominant performance from Marina Rodriguez, really pulling away. If that fight was 5 rounds, Marina Rodriguez would have won that one no matter what. But Rodriguez wins. She beats Xiaonan. Now Xiaonan, after back-to-back losses, gets Mackenzie Dern. Now, the thing is, with all Mackenzie Dern fights, though, if she can't get a takedown, she is screwed, right? Now, okay, that's what we usually think, but if we're being honest, her last fight against Tisha Torres, she did not take her down once. She didn't get a takedown. The fight ended up on the ground some, but, you know, Dern never successfully took her down. Even in the second round, they kind of exchanged, you know, ground spots. It was fine. Dern wins the fight by split decision. It's a close fight. It's a weird fight, but it's always interesting picking a Mackenzie Dern fight. Always is. Because it's a 5-round fight against Xiaonan, and we say it every time Mackenzie Dern fights. If she was an elite wrestler, she'd be the champion of the weight class. Or if she was just slightly better at wrestling, Mackenzie Dern would be so good. And if she could set up her wrestling just with some hands, she would be really dominant, man. Like, you just look at the fight against Marina Rodriguez, right? Rodriguez wins 4 rounds in that fight, but you look at the 1 round Mackenzie Dern wins, the second round. She gets her down. She finds that takedown in the second round. She almost catches her in a sub, but that's what I'm saying. Mackenzie Dern only needs 1 takedown. She is truly that elite of a jiu-jitsu player where she only needs 1, and that's how she'll win the fight. Right? And the same thing applies to this fight against Xiaonan. The same thing applies. Yan's takedown defense is pretty solid in her own right. She's been able to go out there and win fights through her wrestling too. I mean, you look at the Karolina Kowalkiewicz fight, even though that's kind of a glaring, obvious weakness in the game of Karolina is the wrestling, but still, Yan's shown that she can do it in her own right. Obviously, she's not going to take down Mackenzie Dern because that's basically just signing her own death sentence, but it's okay. For Xiaonan, the game plan's simple. You got to keep the fight on the feet. You can't get caught in a submission, and you got to outbox Mackenzie Dern. Because there is not a doubt in my mind that Xiaonan's not able to outbox Mackenzie Dern. It's just that simple. Dern will throw strikes. She'll be very aggressive in her approach on the feet. She'll throw. They might not be the most technical strikes, but she'll throw strikes out there. She'll wing them out there just to try to make you look at something before she tries to trip you or get you on the ground with the takedown. Right? Because Mackenzie's going to attempt in a 5-round atmosphere. If this fight goes all 25 minutes, Mackenzie Dern's going to attempt at least 15 takedowns. That's just the way she's going to fight. The thing is, she can attempt 15, and she just gets 1. That's all she needs. She can go out there, get a submission, win the fight. That's how dangerous Mackenzie Dern is, and that's why picking every Mackenzie Dern fight is so interesting, especially against the elite of the division like Xiaonan, because you know these fighters are so good, and you're picking kind of the same way you picked Mackenzie Dern's fights when she was, you know, up and coming in the rankings, right? Where it's like, all right, she's taking on a fighter like, I don't know, Amanda Bobby Cooper, right? Amanda Cooper wasn't the greatest fighter, but she goes in there and, like, you're thinking, okay, Dern only needs 1 takedown. If she gets it, she can go in there, she can submit her in the first round. That's what she did, right? Even the Hannah Cybers fight, the Randa Marcos fight, there's an obvious, she's better than these fighters, even Nina Nunez, right? But Xiaonan's so good, and she's a top 5 fighter. It's like, can Mackenzie Dern do the same thing against the top fighters in this weight class? The answer to that question is yes. She can still do it. It's that she just needs to get a little bit of luck involved. She needs to get that 1 takedown. Or she needs Xiaonan to slip once, like what Volkanovski did against Ortega. And in Dern's case, she needs to actually finish the guillotine, right? So it's just so weird picking Mackenzie Dern fights because, you can think Xiaonan's going to win it for 24 minutes, but then Dern gets her down once and gets her in submission. And, that's just how Mackenzie Dern fights. Like, this fight could be a clear one-way for Xiaonan, where it's just Dern can't take her down. It's one-way traffic for Yan, or it's the other way around, where Dern takes her down immediately or gets her on the ground, submits her in the first round. I'm going to go with the latter. I think Mackenzie Dern wins. I don't think she gets it the way I just detailed, but I think she'll win it by second-round submission. I think in the second round, Mackenzie Dern will find a way to bring Xiaonan to the ground, and I think she'll submit her in the second round. I think Mackenzie Dern comes through in her second main event spot. I think she'll win this one against Yan. I think, again, this is a fighter in Xiaonan who is in need of a win. She's on back-to-back losses, but I think Mackenzie Dern is able to get this win and send Xiaonan to a 3-fight losing streak. I think that's just how that goes, man. Dern's a minus 2-1 favorite for a reason. Again, I say that phrase a couple times in this video, but still, I think Dern is going to show why she is the favorite going into this fight. And I like Xiaonan to get submitted by Mackenzie Dern in the second round. Now, when you look at the rest of this weight class, right? Women's strawweight, it's interesting. Dern's coming into this fight number 5, Xiaonan 6. Where do you go with Mackenzie Dern, right? Because, like, you got Rose, Zhang Weili, you got Marina Rodriguez. Honestly, it's probably Rose Namajunas. Crazy enough, I think that's next for Mackenzie Dern. Mackenzie Dern should fight Rose Namajunas with the victory. For Xiaonan, who knows? Honestly, maybe you look at the loser, Zhang Weili, Carla Esparza, just considering if you get Xiaonan versus Zhang Weili in China, that fight does numbers over there. In a fight night main event, if Zhang does lose to Carla Esparza, numbers. If not, maybe you book Xiaonan versus Carla Esparza rematch. I don't know, just so many of these fighters at 115 at least, in the top 6 have fought each other so much, it's just hard to matchmake them. But I think for, Mackenzie Dern, I think it's Rose Namajunas next. And honestly, for Xiaonan, maybe it's Rose Namajunas next as well. And the winner of this fight will take on Rose Namajunas, and I think it will be Mackenzie Dern because I think she will submit Xiaonan in the second round. And my goodness, would that be interesting? Rose Namajunas' return fight, Mackenzie Dern. Sign me up, man. But in this one, I got Mackenzie Dern to win this main event. I think she'll get it done by second round submission. So, folks, thank you all for watching another UFC preview and predictions here on the channel. We'll be back tomorrow with Bellator from Long Beach. Your main event, of course, for the 145-pound championship. Patricia Pitbull and Adam Borch. Co-main, of course, Spike Carlisle and AJ McKee. So be on the lookout for that one coming up tomorrow. But folks, thank you all for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Give folks, thank you all for watching. And Mamba forever.